Welcome to the Hawks Nest live stream show. My name is Brandon Kane, and unfortunately, I'm bringing in a bonus show to you this Saturday Eve because we don't have great news to discuss, not a trade, not a remarkable signing, but instead, we've had our first man go down for the season. Your breath always kind of just holds a little bit on every practice during training camp because you want to be right there doing one thing on one side of it, but doing something on the other side of it. And these two things don't always go together like peanut butter and jelly. You want the intense practices. You want the players running as hard. You want to replicate game conditions, but at the same point in time, you want your guys protecting each other. You want to try to make sure you can walk through training camp without any major injuries caused by that intensity you're trying to enact. And sometimes it's the intensity, sometimes it's just randomness. Well, today, Kenny McIntosh went down with what appears to be a torn ACL in training camp practice. So that means Kenny is going to be gone now for the year. You're not getting him back this season. And while this isn't your first or your number two running back in the rotation, I would offer that there's a little bit more here with this third guy in the set of the rotation. And then we've also a little bit of a consideration towards where the running back position has been recently when it comes to health overall from season to season. So something to track on in there. When it comes to him, he was taken in the 7th round 2 years ago by your Seattle Seahawks and looked at that time by many, including myself, as one of the biggest steals of that draft and what was a pretty good draft for your Seattle Seahawks. But nobody really could understand why this guy had gone all the way down to the 7th round. So if you're just taking off that this guy doesn't mean anything because he's a third rounder or he's a third running back or 7th rounder, I would caution you on that there's actually a little bit of something there with this kid, and it had gotten us out there excited about the possibility of him sliding into that role. Sometimes with running backs, they come from the top of the draft. Sometimes, like we've seen with guys like Chris Carson here or Thomas Rawls in the season he had, though after his injury, not able to bounce back in the same way, that you can also get your starters from other places as well. It doesn't just have to be that side of it. And he came in that first year as a 6th rounder, and he was looking pretty good. He had these training camp practices, which I'll show you here over my shoulder, where he was making some pretty crazy looking cuts. He was looking fast and explosive. The reason that he fell in the draft was because of the fact that he was a 4.7-ish guy, I think, or something like that. 4.65 is what he did as a 40. He did have a very fast 10-yard split, which is part of what had given me a lot of confidence that he was going to work well in this system, being that it loves those explosive runners that can get to the hole fast. And he can do that, and he had some ability to give you a little bit of everything from the running back position, including the pass catching out of the backfield, where he's can at times kind of run like a receiver at Georgia when you were scouting him coming out, and Georgia would use him in that way, like a slot wide receiver, and let him go get to work. So we were hyped up in this first year. Unfortunately, in the scrimmage, he had an injury there as well, and that scrimmage injury and the timing of it and the severity of it really just didn't allow him to have much of a rookie year that year. So we had to kind of wait out on him. And then into last year, he had to wait for his opportunity. Still stacked up on the depth chart behind Walker and Charbonnet. Finally gets his chance with 31 carries for 172 yards. But look at that yard per carry average, 5.5 yards per carry. That's on the back of a running game for the Seattle Seahawks that wasn't particularly well. That's on the back of a running game for the Seattle Seahawks that was producing only a 3.7 yard per average attempts when given to Kenneth Walker on the other side of it. And we all love Kenneth Walker. I think it just speaks to a little bit of some of the dynamicism that exists in Kenny's game and how he remained a little bit underrated amongst the fan base and amongst people in the prognosticators and their outlook for him and where he could be. And this is why we kind of remained excited, those of us that had already kind of been like, yeah, there's maybe something kind of here with him. Not that he could be a bell cow guy, but could he be a guy that you start to extend out to 100, 150 touches a season in this modern age where it's more about offenses having an assembly of weapons more than it is having two weapons that you just really like lean on, or three guys that you just lean on, Think like the triplets type of situation that you'd have back in the 90s and the early 2000s. Now in this day and age, it's more, you got to expand. You need more, just the way it goes. When it came to even how his grades were, these aligned well. If you want to go beyond the yard per carry average, he was a 67.3 in how he was looked at as far as his overall offensive score by PFF. He was dinged a little bit for his pass blocking, but he was good other than that. when you look at how he did, and if you want to understand where that would have ranked as far as, again, I know it's a sample size and a little bit of small data on this package of things, but he would have been right around 42nd-ish for running backs in the NFL by PFF's marker. Now, he had not the minimums, of course, of where it would be how they'd rank that. But if you just took away the minimums and wanted to get a basic idea of where he was last year, Kenny was right in about 42nd or so and how he was rated and where he stood. And so you can see there's some names there that around him that are, commonly looked at as very quality running backs up in that section of things. Kyron Williams up there at 69.1, Tony Pollard in there, Tanks Bigsby, who kind of became the number one running back there for the Jaguars as the year wore along, Cordell Patterson. And so even J.K. Dobbins, who started out fast, but that leg just kind of ran out of steam as the season went along for him. So it is a little bit of a loss here for your Seattle Seahawks. This isn't just losing a guy at the running back position. This one does hurt a little bit. And that second consideration I talked about earlier as we began the show is just that I've called it, and I've called it jokingly, by the way. People take this super seriously, and they're like, what do you mean beast mode curse? What does that infer? What are you trying to say with that? It's just kind of a general term I've kind of given the situation, which is the beast mode curse. And then you had Marshawn Lynch here, and he was remarkable in his ability to stay upright and to be out there consistently rolling. And I understand the running back position is one that's guys battered and beaten and bruised pretty damn often. But at the same point in time, since Marshawn's moved on, you've had a difficult time keeping all of your running backs healthy, not just the starters, but you've seen at times going through years that we end up through a stable of 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, let's call a guy off the street and see if he can do something kind of situation. And hopefully we don't end up there again this year. Luckily, the Seattle Seahawks have reinforced this position nicely. You've got Walker and Charbonnet that you feel good about. Hopefully Walker can stay healthy here for one season going through a contract year. And then you also got Damian Martinez in here, who I know all of us are jacked about. A guy with a lot of shades of Chris Carson to his game. Many of you have even made predictions to me in the chat that you feel like he's going to be potentially a guy who's going to ascend to that number one spot by the end of the season. Well, he just got a little bit of a step forward towards that now at this point. Also, the Seahawks aren't completely empty there behind the tank. It's not just let me check the roster. Who's the next running back we have as number 4 now? Who's the guy that we got out of Saginaw Valley State, who was really good out there in that division AAA, whatever 1A school he was at? Well, it's actually going to be George Holani. So don't sell the boat on George Holani either. Don't look at it as just like, we're not going to be able to make anything do with him if he's got to go get snaps. Holani's got some interesting ability to him, and a guy that I think could fit pretty well into this offense as well. So even if he's got to slide in now as your 4th at times during the year, fill in here and there, I feel okay about that. But certainly as well, this now goes from a position that you would have looked at going into the season and saying, there's no chance between now and the trade deadline that we're going to be out there looking for somebody on the open market to make a move for. Now, if you do happen to get yourself one more injury on top of this stack, you may start to be cracking and open that door just a little bit wider at that point. Sharps, a Walker goes down, and considering Walker's rich injury history, this is a situation to track and monitor to make sure, hey, is there anybody that's going to maybe be out there available if something does go haphazardly wrong? Don't think John isn't thinking about that right here and now as we move this forward. So hopefully this is the only injury that we get in training camp. This one did sting just a tiny little itty-bitty bit, but hopefully he can bounce back strong, and this kid does get a chance and opportunity. He's had to kind of wait for it, and now right here as he might have gotten a few more carries this year, he goes down. That's a tough break. Football is so brutal in that way for these guys that have worked so hard to get these opportunities, and then it just like a rug gets pulled out from under them, and it's just you feel brutal. You feel tough for them, especially considering that first year that got robbed from him where he was running really well in the scrimmage. I think he had a lot of yards in that scrimmage, and I showed you the cut up there from him in training camp in that first year, and then he got injured at the scrimmage game, and it just couldn't get back right, couldn't get back to 100% all out. It's a little bit like the Uchenna thing from last year, where it just, even though it was an early injury, they just couldn't quite get up over that hump to the other side of it. I thank you guys for watching today. I'm probably going to just bounce kind of in and out as we've got ourselves a show lined up for tomorrow at 5 o'clock. We're going to be looking at the training camp and what's been going on in the early process of this. The pads are not on, so I'm not going to be in there with a lot of hardline takeaways tomorrow on what we're looking at. But what I'm going to do is play you a collection of clips that I'm kind of putting together here for tomorrow just in regards to listening to what some of the players are saying and what they're talking about. And when we finish up the show today, I've got a little short that I'm going to be posting to the channel. And because you guys are nice enough to watch tonight, I'm going to post this short tonight right before the show ends. So you want to stay tuned in all the way through the end of the show today, as it's a pretty awesome clip of Julian Love being asked about whether or not Cam Chancellor and the Nick Emwari comparisons are fair and true and real and right. And he does splash some cold water on the comparisons, but not in the way actually of sort of saying that Nick can't get to that spot. He actually speaks even more highly of him and his potential and where he thinks he possibly could go as a player. So it was just a clip that got me jacked. Jaron Reed yesterday, as Maddie was saying there on the text to me just before I went live, was the way he was talking made me want to go run through a brick wall. And I agree with him on that. It was getting me jacked. This defense understands. It seems like many of these defenders, from Witherspoon to Jaron to Leonard Williams, are recognizing and understanding that we want to be this defense. We want to be this great defense, not just in how we talk about it, but how we practice and the standard that we set and how we push these youngsters in the way to fit to the standard. And then it's understanding we've got to be that vocal group within this, not just one guy, but as a collection, so that you just have no choice but to, fall in the ranks and get in alignment and do what is required of you there. So that part's also been very cool about here and there in camp, but we'll be getting to more of that stuff tomorrow and discussing some of that stuff tomorrow. But I'm going to go in and out with you guys really quick. We'll get just a little bit of some chat interaction with you before I'm going to bounce back over there. I might be on a little bit later over on the Twitch channel. If you want to check me out there, the Seahawks Nest over on Twitch. Jesus, are we doomed? We're not doomed, Jesus. We're okay. Wasn't expecting this. Yeah, I wasn't going to go live tonight, but then I wanted to get this in, and I figured why not just go live real quick with you guys and say what's up. Yeah, there's time to figure this out before the season starts. And you have Holani there as a more than just, kind of a mannequin fill-in kind of for the position. You have a guy that you feel good about, who's familiar with your program, who's got some talent to him. And if there's a guy in the open market that does become available at the running back position that, you think is better, you can pluck in and grab them after the cuts happen. That does happen at times. Or you can maybe look for a trade here from John Snyder's perspective, but it's a good point. You're in an early point of camp here to be able to move around, get around this move as far as to try to figure out what you got to do around it. Richard Bennett says it's why you have multiple running backs anymore. Walker has yet to play all 17. Yeah, Richard, it's to your point. This is that new model of the NFL where we as fans can get stuck in the old model a little bit in how we look at roster assembly or how we look at positional players in certain spots and the expectation of them. You're our number one running back. We're going to expect you to be out there every game. And okay, maybe you miss a game here, maybe you get some game there, but now it's kind of the new model as well. More often than not, you're going to get the 13 games. And then you get a couple from somebody else. And maybe they'll go down to maybe you need somebody else on top of that. And this is, you're right, Bennett, Richard, why you need that stable more than it is about the bell cow. Give me a stable of horses more than you're going to give me a bell cow. That's the requirement. I'll take the first more than the latter. What's up, Michael? Richard says, K-Mac still in the Seahawks future plans. This year's year 3, so probably a veteran minimum next year. Yeah, you'll bring him back on that veteran minimum contract. He's a former 7th rounder, so what you bring him back on is not going to be terribly expensive. And the good news on this from K-Mac's standpoint is that because this does happen early, he has that full year to get back off of it now. And depending on the severity and depending on how the surgery goes, that should supply him with an ability at this point to get back with reasonable confidence by the start of training camp. So still going to have a chance down the line, that's for sure. It's not over for him. And Godspeed out there, Kenny, on the recovery. I hope it goes well. We're rooting for you. Card Craze, how's our depth at running back right now? Walker, Charbonnet, and who else? So we'll go Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet. We're going to go Damian Martinez as your number 3, and then George Holani out of Boise State, last year's one of our gems from the undrafted rookie free agent class. And that's the guy who will most likely be your number 4. But I will say, you're certainly in a position right now where you'll keep an eye on the market. And if there's a guy that John's liked that he may like more than George that gets cut off a team, he may jump. Here's is like Marshawn once said, you got to go protect your chickens. Yeah, I think I got that one.
So, I mean, you feel me? Start taking care of y'all mentals, y'all bodies, and y'all chicken.
Richard says the Martinez pick's looking good right now. Oh, it looks even better at this moment. So one of the reasons where I've said the analytic people, Richard, have been kind of proven right in the Seattle Seahawks approach over the last couple of seasons, being that the Seattle Seahawks drafted running backs in the second round in back-to-back seasons, the only NFL team to do that in the last 15 years, save for Cincinnati, who did it back in the early 2010s. Wasn't particularly successful for the Bengals in taking this approach either. But it's also shown you get the line built, and then you can go get those later round guys, and it can work behind a well-built line, a good run blocking line, a good offense. A running game that doesn't have a lot of tells to the defense to show you where the play is going prior to the snap, or a predictability in the type of run plays that you run that let them know where it might go prior to the snap as far as the direction goes. But Martinez is a real fun player. He's going to be a fan favorite very quickly when people watch how he runs and how violent he is. He is looking to hurt people when he runs. He is cut from that Chris Carson cloth. It's not an overstatement at all in that way. So hopefully he's ready to roll and can stay healthy. That's for sure. Sports Talk with Austin. Thank you for the $17.21 donation. That's very specific there. I appreciate that dono, though. That's a big-time dono, brother. Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you for your hard work and taking the time to cover all this. And it doesn't go unnoticed. We appreciate you, and thank you, and God bless the Hawks. Well, thank you so much for that. Let me echo the final part. Go Hawks, but God bless the Hawks. God bless and go Hawks. Let's go. God bless to you, too, as well. And I thank you, man. I love what I get to do still. I really do. This is a lot of fun. I put this video together a little bit right before I went live for the last couple hours, just kind of working on this Nick Emwari, Julian Love thing. And as I was doing it, I was just thinking about Austin, about how much I really do enjoy this, trying to find the right music to pair to it, to kind of put it all together. When we get a nice cut that works right, or you got to kind of, it all comes together. It just feels nice on that way of things. And really enjoy going live. I like doing this still too on that. So we're going to, I think, have a real fun year this year. I'm feeling really good about the Seattle Seahawks team despite the injury today. And let's go, man. I thank you too. Thank you for that very kind support. You guys are just tremendous as ever. Get me through the offseason and even in the low times. And when we get back and it's cooking right, we're right back at it with that too. So I really thank you guys. You guys have ever been amazing. We have more members now than we've ever had on the channel. Paid more patrons than ever before on that side of it, and the donation's high as ever, and you guys are just unbelievable in that way. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate you, and it doesn't go unnoticed on my side either. Thank you, man. Michael Howe, Sam Darnold, and Jalen Milroe. I think Sam Darnold is getting as much good pub here in the early part of training camp as any player. Is it the team, pumping him up because they're aware of the fact, that there's going to be the calls there for Milroe? I don't think so. I think he's making some legitimate plays out there and what he's doing and how he's executing it. He has some familiarity with this offense prior, so he's not starting out from square one. Jalen Milroe, by most accounts, sounds like he has corrected some of the mechanical issues, and I'm not going to say flaws. We'll just call them issues, because a flaw is something that can't be fixed as much. But it does sound like it's looking better. His motion's looking better. It looks like he's working hard on it, and so it's, it is just a lot of positive. This is the nature, a little bit of training camp, but there's also those training camps you'll get where it's, you can't say it's everywhere. Go look at some of the cut-ups of Steelers and at the Steeler training camp. I was talking last week, Michael, about the fact that I just don't get the Aaron Rodgers DK connection. And Coleman and Schneider touched on this in the Steelers video for their preview of the Steelers this season, being that Aaron wants to throw back shoulder fades. He wants to be precise with his receivers. You make the adjustment I make. You go where I go. You run your route tight. And when I go off script and I back shoulder you, I need you to have the hands to reel that in. And you've already got them down in the red zone with DK. The balls are being intercepted, thrown over DK. It does everything to do with DK on the interception. The guy just undercut the route, I think, in Red Rodgers' eyes. But then they went to him on a back shoulder throw and just. So you got places like that where there are some spots where people are going boy, it's not like Chicago. It doesn't sound like things are smooth sailing right now with where Caleb's at and how he's executing the offense there for Ben Johnson. So, but both guys sound like they're doing pretty good. Even Drew Lock's getting some good praise. So hard to know on that what's legit good praise and what's just them kind of fluffing. There's a lot of fluffing this time of year, Michael. Dogzilla, does George Holani have any NFL snaps? He does in the preseason last year. And if I'm not mistaken, he ran pretty well. So let me double check on this. So he had 3 carries last year for 10 yards. I can't see his preseason snaps, but I want to say in the preseason that he ran pretty well. He had a couple of games in the preseason where he was doing all right. Yeah, we ran McIntosh in the one game. Oh, there we go. 2 carries, 3 yards. Well, it wasn't that game. Could be wrong. I thought he ran pretty good in the preseason in one of the games where he pulled some stuff off there, Dogzilla. But they were doing a lot of featuring of McIntosh too last year when they were running it. And they were trying to, I think, get Darnold to throw a little, or not Darnold, but Howell to throw a little bit more. Mike Kelsey, that's good to hear. I wish we played y'all this year. I want to finally beat y'all. Hopefully we can meet in the Super Bowl. Let's go. We'll meet you there. We'll meet you then. Man, could you imagine? That'd be crazy if we got back there and playing the Broncos again. John Doe, glad we drafted Martinez, but sucks about McIntosh. Boy, does it ever, John. Boy, does it ever. Flying blind, been a while since I caught a stream. How do you feel about Martinez? How much of an impact can he have? There's no reason not to believe flying blind that he can't have the same kind of ascent that a Chris Carson had. There are different reasons that bring him to where he is from why Carson dropped. I think Carson's medicals were probably looked at, and that dinged him a lot through the NFL process as to why Seattle was able to pick him up where they did, on top of being a little bit of a smaller school he was coming from. With Martinez, there is some slight character stuff there that go along with him. I wouldn't call it anything major. And then last year, you had Miami flying blind that was really caught up with having the number 1 overall pick. And let's face it, if you got the number 1 overall type pick, like our guy this year is going to do what he's going to do this season and become the number 1 overall selection in the NFL draft, that type of team is probably going to throw the ball a lot. And I think that does account for a little bit as to why Martinez didn't get more work in what he was able to do last season. So what he was given in the carries he was given, not that he didn't have some games where he was able to do some stuff, he was really good. He's not built like Carson, I would say exactly. Carson's a little bit more lower and ran behind his pads a little bit. Martinez is more like flying blind, a James Conner type, where he gets power while still running with a little bit of an upright running style. And it's not full on that he's got an ironing board up his back, but just a little bit upright and yet able to still dish out punishment running from that high side style of things. Also able to, those highs, when a guy runs high like that, it can be a little easier to kind of target in on the ankles. And those guys like James does, he does a really good job of getting the ricochet off contact around the lower half and then being able to have the contact balance to be able to slide off that, keep his feet and keep himself moving. And then he just finishes runs. You get him here and he drags you for another 3.5, 4 yards. It's a 2-yard run that becomes 6 off the back of something like that. Part of the reason why I think just a minimum Martinez should have a fit in this team is being a good short yardage back. Something that Charbonnet may do better this year, but hasn't historically done as well with that. I know some people go, no, that's Charbonnet's role. Well, some of the data with this doesn't support that. It doesn't quite track as well that Charbonnet's been as good with the short yardage stuff. So this is, if you want to look for a guy that might be a diamond to find in fantasy, even though it's a homer kind of pick, if you're picking your homer guy that's started as the 4th running back in the rotation. Martinez could very well get a lot of vulture touchdowns in the fantasy leagues coming in on those kind of second goals, third and goals. He's the read option back with Milroe and those kind of packages when they bring those guys out. I mean, that's going to be pretty devastating. You got Martinez is in shotgun with him. You got to get all your defenders ready to, be ready to tackle this guy. It's hard to get down to the ground. And then you have the Seattle there with that option of Milroe keeping it going around the edge. Part of why I think a lot of Milroe's usage this year will be down inside around the red zone. A lot of that kind of, simplicity, read option looks, giving him 2 reads. There's some things Kubiak can do within that to really kind of simplify some things down for Jalen there, where he doesn't have to do a lot of processing or thinking, and he can just play. Steve Schmidt says, hey, Brandon, thanks for all you do. Love your show. Thank you, Steve. Very kind of you, man. I appreciate you. Very kind of you. Greens Farm, thanks for the $5 donation. Says, Mac getting hurt unfortunately helps us out with keeping all of our guys. You certainly are. You might have looked at having to let go of a Holani or, dare I say, maybe even a Martinez at that point if this goes down. And in Holani's case, again, I'm not down on Holani. I think there's a little something there with him. I'm not going to completely just sell him down the line a little bit at this point. But we're in okay shape there. Seahawks have done well to build this position up and realize that every year somebody's getting sniped. Steve says, Brendan's cool too. Love the collab, but you're my go-to on YouTube. Thank you, Steve. It's a lot of fun being able to chop this back up with Seahawks Brendan Nelson again. We're going to be getting these going. We're going to be getting this going every Thursday on our side of it, of course, with the show. So we're going to get that cooked back up on that. But thank you, Steve. I really appreciate that, man. There's a lot of great voices out here on the YouTube hemisphere. So picking me on that's a high praise. These guys are doing some great work out there. It's just so cool to see the Seahawks community, content creator community out there just doing a great job. Everybody's on it and busting their butt. You can see it coming up on the feeds, and it's very cool. Dogzilla says, what happened to the other cat's nest? I did the summer cleaning thing, Dogzilla. Like I'm preparing for this little office-ish space, I'll call it. It's not really an office, but sort of the office space here. By the end of the year, it gets a little dusty. So got to come bring in here everything in and do a good heavy scrub down of everything because it does get gnarly. I'll be bringing it back though. Cats have been chilling elsewhere. He is an angry runner. James Stradley, totally sucks that the worst part of training camp, having players getting hurt when there's no contact. Go Hawks. It's unfortunate. It's not any fun. And like I said at the top on this one too, James, it's that thing where it's like, how do you train it? How do you drive hard, but then yet also protect the players? And then when it comes to a running back, you never know if it was not just him trying to make some fancy cut, put 1 foot here, put 1 foot there, and you just go down. It's just a bit of the nature of the beast a little bit with it. And I think a big part of this just comes down to people get caught up on training methods and this and that. And I think some of this just comes down to these guys are so big and fast anymore, and they're carrying so much weight on these bodies, and the ligaments can only take so much. Just kind of the way it is. You can't really build strength into your ligament. I don't know. Maybe there's probably a supplement by now that you can take. Flying Blind, can you give us a little preview of the safeties of the safety one? Yeah, why don't we do it right now? You guys, let's do it right now. I want to bring up the thing. Look, you got a guy injured today. Let's bring up the spirits a little bit here, huh? It's just a quick little video, just a quick little short here, but this is Julian Love being asked about Cam Chancellor and the Nick Emwari comparisons. Here we go.
That's tough. Obviously, Cam Chancellor not only was a great player, but he captured the hearts of everyone in Seattle, and that team was a special team. Maybe the height, people kind of can see a similarity, but other than that, I don't think they have much in common. Nick is incredibly athletic. He plays well in space. He's lanky. He's going to play a much different role than what Cam did for the Seahawks, and so I would definitely steer away from those, but this kid's special. I mean, his ability to run, turn, jump, and dip and extend and change direction is unlike anybody I don't think I've ever seen at the position, and so I don't know what lane, what bucket he would fit into because he is so different. I've never seen it before.
I'm just saying, when it comes to vets, they don't tend to give rookies this kind of praise out the gate before they've even played a single snap. And so he had this chance to take this one direction flying blind with going and being like, look, he's got to earn getting these kind of comparisons. He's got to earn. You talk about Cam, you're talking about like an all-time great in Seattle, and a hell of a player in this league, a guy right on the line on that Hall of Fame line. And he doesn't take that approach to it. And instead he's really getting effusive in the praise, I feel like, in a kind of major way that, again, I thought it was notable, as these vets don't tend to talk that way about these kind of guys. And it shows that Nick has come in and worked really hard, and he's impressed them with that natural ability he possesses, which of course got all of you so tantalized out there before the draft and going, man, 4'3", this big, this explosive. He's got some ball skills to him. He's got some tackling ability, a little bit of hitting. There you go. There you go. Maybe it can show up on the NFL field and show up real fast. Steve says this team's going to surprise a lot of clueless mother effers sleeping on the Seahawks. I love it, Steve. I love it. Let's go. Let's go. I think they are. I think they are as well. I've got us at 11 wins this year, and I'm feeling pretty confident about it. But I like that underdog role. It fits right. Rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. Rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. CJ Brandon, did you watch the newest South Park? Boy, they went there. They went pretty hard, yeah. I saw a clip of it. I haven't watched the whole episode yet. I'm not as much of a pure South Park guy all the way as much as others are out there. Like, I always liked the show. I didn't not like it. It's just a good show, but I'm just not as much. There are people that kind of worship at the altar of South Park a little bit, and I'm not quite at that spot. But yeah, they don't. They will let it rip. Well, now I can already see the injuries will be the excuse to save Schneider's job since he can't use Pete anymore. Maybe so. Probably, you never know. This will be a tough one on this one to say that this sunk you on this one. Sports Talk with Jose Rodriguez is Damian Martinez. Come on down. You're the next contestant on the Seahawks running back roulette. Yes. And don't worry about all the men that have gone down before you. That's just luck. Spirit Records, can DK be successful in that system? Sure. Can he do it with old ass Rodgers and no ego? I think you touch on this. It's not any shade to DK, and quite honestly, I think DK, in a tactical way, made a smart move going to an Arthur Smith offense, because it's an offense that can take advantage of DK in a really nice way, specifically peeling away some of those double teams off of DK's back from time to time by making them concentrate those resources on the running game. But the Rodgers part of this is the one that I go, With DK's skills, I think the Steelers just would have been better suited to just hold on to Russ at this point. We'll see. Maybe they're brilliant on this. I've been trying to think this one through, and I just keep coming back to this just does seem stupid. This thing seems stupid, but maybe not. Steelers aren't known for being that dumb of an organization. They certainly haven't reached the height of heights, but they're not known for just pure, utter kind of stupidity on things either. So could just be misreading it a little bit, I guess. Superior Records, Broncos in the Super Bowl would be crazy work. That would be, if the Broncos get there, that'd be this year 3 of Peyton. That'd be, wild. Wild. David says, B, you're the man. Keep it up. Thank you, David. Appreciate you for that, man. Might be Cheeseburger Eddie Lacy try time. Let's bring out. He's got to be 275. He's ready to be a fullback. Michael says, I like Nick before we got Hufanga. I really wanted him. He's a good player, man. I think we might have gotten ourselves a little bit of a steal here, and our Hawks had a first-round grade on him. The reason they were willing to flip a third-round pick to move up in the second round to go and snag him, they believed in that. They had conviction that this guy was going to be that kind of player. And, when you see your organization jumping that way for a guy, and I've seen John in the past, especially in the second round, jump to certain spots, be it, I'm going to jump up here for a Jaron Reed. I'm going to jump up here for a Tyler Lockett. I'm going to jump back into the second round to get a DK Metcalf. When John Schneider makes these kind of jumps, he tends to be right about those jumps specifically in the second round. So when you see him start getting aggro, that second round rolls around and he's starting to get a little bit of the twitches. Maybe something good's about to happen. Justin, I feel good about this season. I do as well, man. I feel real good about this year. I think this team's moving in the right direction, and I think that when you want to be a great NFL team, while maybe there's some luck involved, it is not all that. It is you putting a lot of smart decisions stacked up on top of each other. Smart decisions in the coaching staff and the scheme and the players you draft, the players that you extend, the players that you don't extend, the leaders that you're able to get to emerge on the team, and all of it working together to where you can see the intelligence that then births out eventually that elite contending type team. I think they're heading that way. Riverside says, Nick's a savage. We got him taking reps at edge. Yeah, I guess Julian was kind of shaking his head at that too. He's like, yeah, he's being given a lot. He's in this meeting room, and he's in that meeting room. They're having him do this. They're having him do that. So they're putting a lot on the kid's plate this year, that sounds like. And again, probably just speaks to the fact that he's doing a good job of onboarding it, and he's comfortable onboarding it, and he's just, give me more. Fill it up again. Fill it up again. Congrats, Etro. Congratulations, Etro. Yeah, do you get the Hall nod? Hall noddy? Y2K, thank you for the $5 donation. Y2K says, I'm going to have to disagree on your Rodgers DK comment way earlier in the show. Rodgers might be old and suck, but he feeds his number one receiver like no other. Well, I think that there's also, to me, a little bit of a difference, I'd say, and appreciate where you're coming from, Y2K. Thanks for the $5, and is also being a member of the channel. You're awesome for that, brother. I would say that there's also a little bit of a difference between the Aaron Rodgers we saw with his time there at the Jets and the Aaron Rodgers that we saw in his time with Green Bay, specifically when Aaron Rodgers was really more at his prime. And what happened with, remember Y2K on the way that this kind of went, is that Green Bay had a really nice prime there with McCarthy. Things started to pitter out at the end with McCarthy. And why did they start to pitter out at the end of McCarthy? Because Aaron was doing his Fleetwood Mac, I'm going to go my own way, So it starts drifting in that direction of things. Starts giving off the Favre vibes. And then they bring in LaFleur, and LaFleur gets him re-locked in back into the context of playing into the bounds of the offense and not kind of leaning back into your, like, I'm going to do my Aaron Rodgers thing. And I think what we saw with the Jets recently is more of the sliding back into, I'm going to do my Aaron Rodgers thing. But the two things that to me stand out in how he got done, what he got done with his receivers there in Green Bay, is remember with them Y2K, they would draft guys, they would develop them, they would have years of playing with Aaron Rodgers, years of repping out in practice before then they got to games to where those guys were lockstep, in sync, on the same page all the way down the line. If there's a route adjustment, if there's an option route to be run, the receiver and the quarterback are going to make the same read on that. And that's, again, precision, precise routes, putting a ball in an exact spot, then you make the catch where I'm going to put it. I don't know if that's as much to me on DK's game. I don't think it's going to crash and burn and just completely flame out. I'll say that to a Y2K, but I don't know if it's going to be for what they're putting in and their hopes into it and where they're thinking it's going to go. I don't think it's going to reach those kind of heights to it. And a lot of what he did last year in some of that, what I would call, trying to find the right word for this a little bit, I guess Y2K is the little bit of the regression, I suppose, in a way, on Rodgers' game, is the lack of pushing the ball down the field last year that we saw. Speaks to maybe there's a little bit of a waning of arm strength. But then when he was pushing the ball down the field, how many of those throws were going as back shoulder throws? And if you're throwing balls in as back shoulder throws into DK Metcalf, like it showed at practice the other day, that's not DK's game. He's got a lot of strengths, but you're talking about, okay, we want you as an exact route runner within this offense to fit to what Aaron wants, and then we're going to hit you with a lot of back shoulder kind of fades. Those are just two parts of DK's game that are not there at the forefront. Where can they find other stuff around that works? Yeah, there's some productivity to find around that. I'm sure they will. And like I said, Arthur Smith, with his ability to create a good run game and force you to have to bring a defender into the box to help out in that run game, will create single high safety situations and will give DK moments of having one-on-one coverage on the outside. But those would be just my two, trying to kind of flesh it out a little bit more, Y2K. Those would be just my two real things that stand out with me. I suppose if they can get him into a back like LaFleur did, years ago back, re-locked in, but I don't know if his skill set is in the same place. Even if you can lock back in his mind to get him to play within the confines again in that manner, does he still have the mobility like he did at that time? Does he still have the arm strength like he did at that time? I would wonder about that part. I appreciate where you're coming from. Steve says, forget about the Broncos, man. The Chargers will get to the Super Bowl before the Broncos will. I'm going to say, Steve, if I was putting bets on one of the two, I think Harbaugh's going to find a way to get it done down there. Michael says Chargers never have won a Super Bowl ever, and they never will. Little Dallas Cowboy in the house says, up, Brandon. Dak, 3 interceptions in 3 days of training camp, 8 interceptions in 8 games last season. Dak already in playoff form. Trade me, Sam. Come on, be cool. I would say if I was a Dallas Cowboy fan, and I think you'd sign off, I'd be interested to hear if you would sign off on this, that I would embrace like the timing right now as much as ever to, just lean into just sort of tear it down a little bit. And you should have moved Dak before. They shouldn't have given him the contract extension, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you can't even get out from under that deal right now if you wanted to. But it's amazing how many Cowboy fans just do not want Dak to be the guy there. I also saw Dak had some kind of quote about doing the whole thing where he's like talking about winning's the most important thing while he's like collecting this massive check, which can quarterbacks just shut up when that stuff comes up? Just look, you want to take the money, but then shut up. You're going to take every last penny. Don't start playing the public relations game of, I want you guys to be sold on me being a winner though. Like, shut up. You want to be made the highest paid quarterback of the sport. Hush. Just collect your checks, be silent in it. I won't knock you for it, but don't play that game. You have an opportunity to take a little bit less and save your team some dough and you don't. Okay. But, if I was that Micah Parsons decision, little Dallas Cowboy, you go pay a defender $43.5 million for the right to put your team in third place in the NFC East. That pill don't go all the way down the throat, does it? That one has a tendency to get a little stuck. Just sit him until he waves the trade clause. Play hardball. Hey, that's a way you could go. All I'm saying is this wouldn't be the worst year for the Cowboys to tank out. You're not going to, you'll maybe knock down the Giants and be in third, but Washington and the Eagles are going to get above you in that division. I don't think you guys got a particularly easy schedule. Set yourself up. Go get your next quarterback this offseason. You'll be at a nice high point of the pick. You've got an offensive line you've reasonably done a good job in the last couple of years of putting some guys together down there that are going to be, Tyler Smith, and you drafted Booker, and you got BB, one of my favorite interior offensive linemen from that draft. I mean, Steele's in there, a young quarterback comes in there and it could be a lot like Dak had it when he first walked in there. Just saying. HHGB, did you say you were going to training camp or just the scrimmage game? I am going to be at training camp. So let me double check my training camp dates here. Training camp dates. So I'm going to be I'll be at the 30, we're going to be the 31st, and we got August 1st. I will be at those two. Don't think I'm on the 28th there. So I think it's 31st and 1st, and then I'm going to the Fan Fest on the 2nd. So 2 days of practice and then Fan Fest. And then we're going to do a meetup on Fan Fest Day. So we got Bryce Coots. I think we're getting Corbin Smith in on this, by the way, if I'm not mistaken. So he's going to be in on this too as well. We've got Dan Vienz has gotten it all set up, and we're going to be at I gotta see where we're gonna be at again. I'll let you guys know. So I'll be in on those days, and then we're gonna be. Sorry, I had it right up here, guys, and I lost it. Okay, so it's the Fast Fashion Brewery, 1723 First Street Avenue. We're going to be there at 2 o'clock on FanFest Day there, down by Lumen. So on the day of the scrimmage, it's next door to Hooverville, and it's called the Fast Fashion. We're going to be down there. We're going to be doing a remote stream. I'm not going to be doing it, I don't think, to my channel. I don't know if I'll have my stuff. I think I'll just be doing it to Dan's channel, but we're going to have a collection of guys down in there. Mookie's going to be there, field goals and whatnot. So Bryce Coots, all the good folks, really looking forward to that. And so we'll be doing a little bit of the meet and greet thing out there on that too, on that side of it. I'll probably be over at Dino's after practice on a couple of the nights too, if people want to head over there too. So if you're feeling jumpy, I'll probably be in there having a beer or two, chilling out on the laptop, cutting up a video or two. Michael says, not going to lie, other than INTs, I really like Dak. I'll tell you what, Michael, I've had a lot of Cowboy fans come into my chat over the years. I had a lot of discussions with them, just like with Little Dallas Cowboy. And I will tell you what, to a man, they are pretty much in lockstep on this one. And fans are never in lockstep when it comes to a quarterback position, which is why it makes me laugh so hard, because they're so anti-Dak. They were anti-Dak before this contract extension. They've been anti-Dak for a while. And it's a little funny, Little Dallas Cowboy, just how many of you guys are so anti your starting quarterback. Kelly says, funny fact, I live in Saginaw and right near the campus of SVSU. Not a great area, sadly. I know Thomas Rawls was from Flint, next door to Saginaw. It's just got that fun name that just sounds like a small school, you know, Kelly. It's an easy one with it. We're like Kent State. It sounds smallish, but Saginaw Valley, that sounds like some deep-rooted spot in the middle of the bayou. Every time I watch Milroe's draft pick, I get goosebumps. Ooh. He might be our guy. Jessica says, sometimes you can win the battle and lose the war. Imagine taking $50 million a year and being average. Meh. I agree 100% there, Jessica, and I don't really get this with quarterbacks, I guess, because I try to always put myself in the player's position. And if it's any other position on the football field, I totally get it with the guys doing, hey, I got to get every dollar I can get. I will never ask some defensive end or this running back to take a discount. You know, you have a shortened career span. You've got to get the money while you can get it. You know, you don't have maybe a lot of opportunities post football all the time. I'll always stand back from saying, hey, do what you got to do. When it comes to quarterbacks, these guys over the years have kind of chapped my hide when it comes to this stuff. And, you know, they leaned in about 13 years ago, even more into sort of a diva nature that had always been there in kind of the background to a degree. But I would offer to you that, you know, when I think of the Elways and Marinos and the Joe Montanas, I don't know if when you're talking about a description of any of those quarterbacks through their era that you land at diva at any item. This diva-ness thing is a modern iteration with these quarterbacks. And what they want to do, they want to push so hard and let their agents push so hard to be paid more than double the next guy on the roster. And then they want to do stuff like Dak does here, which is want to then claim about how winning is ultimately the most important thing. Meanwhile, you as a quarterback have a tendency, especially if you're a good one, to earn the kind of contract that Dak's earning, to go out there and play 15, 16, 20 years in the league, earning multitudes of those big contracts. So I'm okay if you want to just take the money and shut up. But if you want to take the money and then start squawking about how winning's important, that's when you deserve to be raked a little bit over the coals for that one, because you're out of pocket for it. If you care about money, if you care about winning, you take you take what is still going to be lifetime wealth, generational wealth, just a little bit less of it. Just a little bit. Oh, DJ Jimenez in the house. How you doing? This year we tank for Landon Barton. I'll be at FanFest. Well, come seek me out, DJ. I'm going to be down there. We'll be at the at that bar. We'll be there for a few hours there before the scrimmage, and then be at the scrimmage, and I'll probably be out at some other bar after the thing. I'm taking Uber down there. I'm just saying that, right? Well, you guys, you can do the math on that one. Okay. Spirit over 50 graded autos of that player. What? Paulie 704. How you doing, man? Says, I can't wait to see a well-executed run play from our boys. Been so long. Oh, it'll be a wonder to watch, Paulie. You're going to see guys moving on a string on an offensive line. You're going to see a back taking very, very efficient executed paths to the holes. You know, you're going to see decisiveness. You're going to see a running game that's going to get you the bare minimum most times on runs with the 2 or the 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but oftentimes much more than that. You're going to see defenses unable to key in on the pass game as much. That you're going to see defenses that aren't going to be as good in pass protection or good as, you know, getting after our pass protection and creating pressures as much, because they can't just, you know, pin those ears back and go because they know we're just going to throw the ball, or they have indicators prior to the snap that we're going to throw the ball. These are all things kind of removed and are going to be immediate returns from Clint Kubiak. Part of the reason that he was able to get immediate returns with the Saints is that these things are sort of timeless elements to football that you bring to an offense, and they help everybody. Help running backs, help quarterbacks, help offensive line, even help receivers. So receivers like to moan with this offense, though. They do a little complaining sometimes, especially those not exact route runners. But I'm expecting those returns, Paulie. I am. It's gonna be a beautiful thing to watch. Theo said, heard Isis Waxter from Villanova has had a great training camp so far. I have too. One of the players was asked about him. I don't know if it was Love or not. It might have been somebody else, but one of the players was asked about him, spoke to how athletic he looked, how good he was playing and performing. It'd be great if he could rise up. We know with that position that it's definitely a need to get a little bit more depth in there, and guys at depth that have quality in that depth. Not just a body in there, but a guy that we can actually rely upon a little bit if we have to throw you out there. Maybe you don't have to be a star, but just hold the line a little bit. Be functional. Haven't heard any story or reports on Horton, Herbicide. I'm going to try to do a little bit more of deep digging on some of the first 3 days of camp and what some of the people are saying out there, and see if I can get any kind of things that we're hearing about him. But up until this point, I have not heard anything concretely on that. Emerald Hayes says, what are the chances of Hawks trading for Micah Parsons? I had it at like about I would say, I think the Hawks would be one of the top teams to try to make a move for him, because I think that they would be the team that would be willing to pay him. And then not every team's going to have the money in the coffers right now, I think, to throw $43 million a year at Micah. And the Hawks do have the assets to do it. But I would say it's very low. You know, it's like a 2 or 3%. Cowboys do a lot of squawking, and they create a lot of pain in the butt and a lot of drama. Some of this is, I feel like, Jerry trying to keep them in the news. And if it's a CeeDee Lamb or a Dak Prescott kind of contract thing, that they can have that in the news more and more, and that you're talking about Cowboys. Talking about us. It's a good thing. Only good press. There's no bad press. And Jerry's definitely one of those guys that is from the old school footing that there is no such thing as bad press. So he just likes having them in the news, and I think that they're going to get the deal done, as the Cowboys always end up paying. The Cowboys never hardline any of their players. Not that they should here with Micah, but they never take a stand. They never do something that impetuous or that bold or that brave, quite frankly. They're kind of too cautious of an organization to ever kind of do this move. It's part of the reason that they've been stuck in place so long, is that they just don't know when to be aggressive or how to be aggressive, or when to turn it over, when to realize you're not a Super Bowl team and you're not in place or on track to become one. So you probably should just hired Brian Schottenheimer as your coach. I mean, come on. It's not happening. Michael says, y'all cut Noah Fant, so that's a no for AJ Barner to Denver, right? Yeah, you ain't getting AJ to Denver. He's our number 1 tight end, man. You can have Noah back, though. Here, you can have him. Sperry says, like Little Cal was saying, Jones loves his sticker players, though he ain't trading Micah. Yeah. He's got his way about him, Jerry, and it's been years locked in on this kind of way of manner. So you kind of understand and get it at this point. It's ridiculous. It's just, I can't believe that there's no, at any point in time, you eventually would have some soul searching, wouldn't you? Eventually you'd be like, am I part of the problem? Is it me? I mean, I thought I was the Dallas Cowboys. I was Dallas. But maybe I'm not. Maybe I'll be part of the problem. I'm not. Jerry's world's not part of the problem. Jerry's world is make this world. I make this world. It starts having like internal strife like that. Eventually just comes back around to just, no, I'm not the problem. I'm part of the solution. They're all part of the problem. Especially my fat ass son. Daddy, I'm in the room. Shut up. Paulie says, is Christian Wilkins someone we would kick the tires on? I would imagine you would. You would probably think that there's a little bit of this from John Schneider being able to, ring-ding-a-ling up Coach Carroll and say, hey, Coach Carroll, why don't you tell me about Christian Wilkins? And Coach Carroll says A, B, C, D, and E, which would then tell John to say, okay, I'm not going to do that. But maybe it's something beyond that. Maybe it's Coach Carroll just trying to kind of like make an example and try to change a culture in Las Vegas, and that's kind of more at the forefront what's going on here. So there's a lot of kind of kerfuffle to the Wilkins situation that makes it hard to kind of determine what is truth and what is false there with it as far as what kind of caused him to move out of town. But to your point, I think you got to kick the tires on him. Yeah, I think you got to bring him on in. I think as well, Paulie, and I could be mistaken on this, but I think that it's a little bit like the Russell Wilson situation with Wilkins, where you could give him a $5 million contract, for instance, but to Wilkins' standpoint of it, the offset language just works in such a way with him being released off that like he can't make essentially more than kind of what's on the books there, I think, for this year. I might be mistaken on that, but he's not going to be expensive anyway with a foot injury, but even maybe less so expensive if there is that offset language that does exist in addition to that with Wilkins. And, you're signing him on a one-year prove-it deal. He's a pure nose tackle. There's no way that wouldn't make sense if he's anywhere near to being the player he was to not bring him in. I guess the one hard part would just be, you'd have to like cut like Hankins or something at that point, probably. I mean, that's not super hard to do that, but you better be darn sure about Wilkins' health then at that point, which maybe then makes that signing hard to happen. I could see that. Mike Hill says, I say if the Cowboys believe they will move on from Dak and Micah, ask for way too much money, which too much is hard for someone so talented and young. They won't trade him. I don't think they'll trade him either. Again, not the modus operandi of Jerry Michael, but I will also say that this is absolutely what Dallas should do. This is not a team that's on any kind of pathway at any point in time soon to be going to a Super Bowl. They're firmly fitted into that third place in that division, and that's not changing anytime soon. And so you got to force change. You got to make change happen. You got to be change. Jerry's got to be change. I don't want change. I want Super Bowls this way. I became a billionaire this way. When you win one of those Super Bowls, Jerry, it was 19, what was that? Super Bowl? 99? It wasn't 99, Jerry. 90, it was a while ago. We won them, though. You did, Jerry. You did indeed, but it's been a while. It's hard to get those old dogs, learn new tricks. But I agree I think even if they believe they should move on from him, I don't even know if they would then at that point, Michael. I think that there's such a factor that drives the Cowboys that's just beyond that common, is it right or not for us to do this? Is it in the best interest for us to do this? I think there's all this other stuff, about how are we going to market the Cowboys and that starting quarterback? I need to face this franchise. I can't trade away the franchise face. What's going to bring him in? Meanwhile, like I just said, I got all these Cowboy fans going, get him out of here. Just read the room, Jerry. Wilkins to Denver. Hey, you already got a pretty strong defensive line, man. That make you guys even more dangerous. Herbicide says Hankins ain't healthy. Going to bum me out if Murphy is back at nose tackle. Yeah, me too, man. They've been talking the big game that's not where this is going with them, but we got to see it before we can believe it. And one injury here like that to Hankins or even to Jaron, and back he goes. Especially if you get Riley, Mills, the kid they took in the 4th round, comes back healthy and starts looking good out of the 3-tech. You go, well, we got three techs. We got one of these guys that can play the nose tackle. You see where I'm going with that, Erzai? It's like, ooh. Steve Smith says, Dallas is sorry, 3 decades of utter irrelevance. America team my ass. Don't you talk about my team that way. America team, your front, you mean? Yeah, they're not America's team, and there's always a stupid moniker. Always ridiculous. And they're one of the kind of laughingstock organizations in the league right now because of this owner. And hopefully we'll be getting beyond those days here in this new era of ownership, which is going to be a little more corporatized. We're going to lose a little bit of the colorful nature of some of these owners of the past, but from these fan bases that have had to suffer for decades through with them, I think they're like, yeah, we're okay with that. That's okay. We'll go with corporate. Yeah, Chase, they are acting like Reed's playing the nose. Chase is $61 million a year for a barely top 10 quarterback is shameless. It is, man. I mean, especially a guy that's been injured now twice. I'd taken that kind of money and then been injured twice like that. And I know you got me on a cheap rookie deal on my first contract, but I eventually would start to come back and go, if I give you, the move I would do as a quarterback that I don't understand why I don't see more quarterbacks doing is that you could kind of like come back to the team and hold them on a barrel on this, right? Like you take the maximum salary, then you come back and you're like, all right, look, we're going to take 13 million off my contract this year, but I want you to go get this. So you'll take this, but you're going to use these assets for this thing specifically. We never see really a quarterback do that. That'd be the move I would do. You're going to get my guy. Mike Elsa's my honest opinions. I think the Cowboys are a good team when healthy. Not sure how much talent they lost over the offseason, but yes, they do have a tendency to choke in the playoffs. They're not, it's bad. It's a middling thing, Michael. That's the place that what happens to teams that end up in purgatory is they're never willing to actually embrace being not middle of the road for a year. And Michael, I think Dallas is a shining example of this. I think the New Orleans Saints are a pretty big example of this. I think the Falcons have a little bit of this going on at times and how they run what they do. Where you just have these teams that perpetually just kind of push things along and never quite are ascending to that place of things. And it's not that they're purely bad. I think they're badly run organizationally from some of the like owner that you have pushing down. Like you can get things right despite a bad owner. But I would say that they're not on their way to being great and they're not close to being great. And I don't know how they get to a future where you look at that team having any chance of trying to of ever getting to a Super Bowl. I mean, defensively too, it's, Trayvon Diggs is a pretty good corner out there. A little bit of an injury history that you got to worry about there with him. You got Ziggy or Usa, who's a good defensive tackle down in there. Micah Parsons. Deron Bland, I guess, corner. It's a little lean otherwise, I would say on that. Emerald Hayes, Mr. Walken. What are your thoughts on the Hawks running back top 3? K9, Zach Charbonnet, and Martinez. What would you predict their season 25 to be in touchdown and yards? I'm glad you asked, Emerald Hayes. Thank you. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a little sad. Walking sad. A little bit of tears. I'm going to tell you now. Kenny McIntosh down goes Kenny. What happened to Kenny? I don't know. But we're still good. Zach, Charbonnet, Walker, K9. Arf. Take a bite. Look out. And then you got Martinez. He's a bull. A China shop. Ready to do some damage. How many yards? I'm going to tell you now. 3,000 Watkins says this year, collectively speaking, 3,000 yards. And how? They say, no, you can't ever get there. I say, yes. Why? Milrow, he's going to get about 600 yards. 3,000 for the year. Write it down, Seahawks fans. It's going to happen. No doubt. Bomber says, rest in peace, Kenny. Hopefully he has a healthy recovery. Who killed Kenny? They killed Kenny. Why? Bring him back now, please. No. Steve Smith, I can remember when the Magic Johnson took literal pay cuts so that the Lakers could sign some free agents. How long has it been since an athlete has done that? There's been some stories here and there of guys that have done it, Steve. And I always laud it when I see it because, to your point, it's so infrequent that you got to give it big time marks. And I really appreciate it from a professional athlete because it captures in a lot of way to what I revere most in an athlete and when you see it. And I think that there would be just the sense of urgency and the sense of sort of really prizing the time that you have to do what you're going to do as an athlete. That, you know, so much of your life is you not being an athlete and out there doing this, and that this is your chance right now to leave that mark in every way, both in your productivity on the field and also by reputationally how you were looked at and how you were perceived. And I think that gets lost a little bit in the modern age on this, but Tom Brady took some discounts through the years. I don't know that the Patriots always maximize those discounts to the utmost, but the intention from him was there and true and right. And I would say Mahomes has done a couple of restructurings. I don't know if it's a full-on discount, but he's moved around some money in certain ways to kind of make it a little bit easier. But it is rare. It is very, very rare. King Bomber said, heard some reports that the O-line is dominating in one-on-ones against one of the best D-lines in the league. Interesting. Very, very interesting. I hadn't seen on those reports. I got some deep diving to do a little bit on later on this evening tomorrow for tomorrow's show on that. But that's good to hear. That was what we want to hear. Remember the years we heard King Bomber back in the days, cable days where you'd have the offensive lines and you'd just be hearing about how they're just getting devastated in the one-on-ones. just getting run through. Kendrick says, what are you looking for most towards in the preseason games? I'm looking forward to Milrow's progression and seeing if I can see it from college, things coming together. It doesn't have to be all fixed and corrected. There can be the rough edges still there, but that we're seeing more of the refinement starting to take into place a little bit, that especially the throwing motion is a little more consistent, throw in and throw out. Torrey Horton and see where he's at health-wise in the preseason, how he looks as a punt returner, if he is as dynamic as I think he can be as a wide receiver when you get him out there and letting him flow. Arroyo and his fit in this offense and his utilization in this offense, I think is going to be something I'm paying really a lot of attention to. I mean, it's going to be a little bit offensive-driven, I got to be honest with you, Kendrick. It's going to be really a lot around the offense and the running game and how that's looking and Zabel and how he's a fitting to left guard. And I think more on defense, I kind of know what we got. I know what is going to be brought to the table there. I mean, you're going to be watching a little bit with Emwari on that, but it's really going to be with the eyes, kind of the two eyes are going to be directly right on that offense and what's going on with it. Herbicide says, I heard Haynes at center is the future. I could see it going that way, Herbicide. I could. Makes sense. Especially if somebody else can kind of take more of the job. I mean, if you've got an equivalent thing going on when it comes down to it, between a Bradford Haynes and Lou May, and you're like, well, these three guys are all kind of, they're decent. They're getting to a good, decent spot, but they're all kind of in that same place where they're at right guard. Versus you could move him to center to turn him into a little bit more of an impactful player there versus what he could be as a right guard. It makes all the sense in the world if that's the direction that they go with it. Hard to predict, but understandable. Spirit Records, wasn't Tom underpaid for a decade in New England? He was, but he took a discount. It was a firm thing of him. Yeah, he spent a very long period of his time there of taking less money. And quite frankly, I think part of the reason that he was willing to leave and walk out the door was the fact that they didn't take those extra resources that they had given them and use those more to the offensive side of the ball. But remember with the Patriots for years, they wouldn't draft a wide receiver in the first round. The second you got him finally like a Randy Moss kind of quotient of talent, look what he did. Yeah, no, Brady's got money. I don't think he's like walked away without, but I just think he took that. He did so and made the choice. I mean, he obviously ended up playing like a long period of time after he took the discount to where he could keep stacking those millions and the sponsorship money and all of that. But he did it at a very early period of time at that point when he did it. And he maintained it through. Steve says, kind of feel sorry for the Chargers because they always seem jinxed. I think Harbaugh turned them around. Yeah, I think they did too. I think Harbaugh's a really good head coach. Look what he did in that very first year there and how they're building it, and they're building it the right way, and how good that defense was in year one. Like they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the AFC West. King Bomber, I keep seeing Rodgers and DK clips on my timeline. They're finally figuring out how bad DK is as a contested catcher. Talking a little bit about that earlier, King Bomber, and how I don't know that fit between the two of those guys. Aaron loves the back shoulder fade. DK is allergic to back shoulder fades. I don't know on that one. Said I'd love to have Stroud in Seattle on a rookie deal. Hell yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Texans go out there and get his brains bashed in again this season, which they're setting up and setting. They put the plate in front of him for this to happen this year. Maybe this eventually leads to something like that where he becomes dissatisfied with the situation there. He's like, I'm about done with this. That connection is already broken and won't last the season. Pittsburgh's a shipwreck before they set sail. Hey, I ain't gonna disagree with you on that, man. What's the DK and Aaron Rodgers situation like?
That guy in a little coat.
That's what I think about. I think about that pairing. That pairing together. All right, well, we were going to do just a quick in and out today. Got over an hour on my in and out. That's in and out for me on this. So that's my version of in and out. We are going to be back here tomorrow at 5 o'clock looking at more of training camp and what's happening outside of the injury situation here with McIntosh and some of the good things that we can look at with the Hawks. We've got some clips set up for you guys tomorrow. We're going to be looking and playing those clips as just some sound bites from the players, coaches on what they're seeing, and some good vibe stuff, just some good encouraging things overall. Nothing bad on that side. So we'll be back 5 o'clock tomorrow on that side of it as well. Coming to training camp there for the last couple of days of training camp before Fan Fest. Then we'll be at Fan Fest. We're going to be out there at a bar just outside of Fan Fest. So it's going to be called the Fast Fashion, right next to Hooverville out there by Lumen. So we'll be there a couple hours before the game on Fan Fest there. If you want to come out and join us, say what's up to us. We'll be doing a remote session out there as well. Got Dan Viens, me, Bryce Coots out there. Hawks Forever, or not Hawks Zone, sorry. And then we got Corbin coming in as well. Corbin Smith's going to come down. So really looking forward to that. Mookie from Field Goals. And we got a whole bunch of folks coming on in there. So really looking forward to that. Looking forward to coming back to home, Seattle. I'm going to walk around the city, just kind of breathe it in a bit. I miss my home at times, and it's always good to get a little bit of a refill back of an empty cup when it comes to that kind of situation. I thank you guys today for watching. If you can do me a big time favor today, it's a thing I always ask, but it is a major thing, and that is if you can hit that like button. Just smack that like button, hit it hard, hit it true, hit it right. Helps this channel grow, helps me show up on the algorithm, helps tell YouTube to push this video out to people that are searching for Seahawks content. You can do that right now by hitting the like button. If you want to sub up, we're right on the edge here coming in the show of almost getting up over, I think, 19,400 subscribers here with a couple of extra subs today. So you can help get us over that mark. Y2KHA, thank you for the $5. Sports Talk with Austin, thank you for the $17 dono as well. Very kind of you guys on that side of it. See if we got any other last questions. Just want to make sure I missed. Did you see the Adams, the Raiders beat? Yeah, I think that's really a cool situation for both parties. Raiders need help defensively. And he says he's in the best shape and that maybe he's had enough time now to really allow that stuff to heal up a little bit better than where it was. I don't know that Coach Carroll used him at his best in the best of ways prior, but Coach Carroll will have the familiarity with maybe the better ways to use him at this point there. So it's a low risk situation for the Raiders, doesn't cost them anything, and there's a lot of high reward for both player and for team there if Adams can refine some of his footing and go out there and play really well. I would love to see it, and he makes the Raiders more exciting going there. I will say that too. Riverside, I'm sure I'll see you before. If not, happy B-Day Holy. Happy B-Day Holy. Happy B-Day. Bomber, if Sam Darnold plays like he did last year, we're a contender. For real. I don't think he'll play as well, but he's looked good in camp so far. I agree, man. If he plays like he does last year, we are definitely going into the playoffs. 100%. He says the Miller highlights are already hitting, man. We aren't in the preseason yet. Oh, man, this fan base is going to erupt if he throws a couple of B's against the Raiders. It's going to be hard to tap the brakes. It's going to be hard to tap those brakes, King Bomber. The fan base is going to be turned up for Milroe. They're going to be wanting to see him, and that's the nature of the beast when you have a quarterback like that sitting on deck, that they're going to be sitting there going, what about this, though? What about this guy? Let's see some of this. And so we'll roll with it and see. It's a good problem to have. It's a great problem to have, actually. So Adams is going to play linebacker for the Raiders. He ain't lasting. Yeah, it's a hard fit to see him as a will linebacker in Herbicide. I don't know about that one. Man. We'll have to see. Agree that King Bomber with a great last thought here. So Sam Darnold plays like 90 to 95% of what he did last year. This division is ours. 49ers have no defense. Rams have a Stafford without a back. And the Cardinals still have Kyler Murray as their quarterback. Amen. I can't add any more than that, man. We're set up to be able to do that. And a couple of these teams in this division that are looked at as above us, being the Niners, the Rams, they have a lot of high-end, top-end stack talent that they're paying a lot of money for. They lose any of that talent, any of that top-end talent, injuries start to hit them. They don't have the reserves. They don't have the depth to call upon. And like you say, the Cardinals are just the Cardinals. I can't take them seriously, even with the improvement they've got from Gannon, even with him steadily getting that team bit by bit better, but better and better and better, and even with a pretty good offseason like they've had. I need to see it truly to believe it. I really do. 11's my birthday. Okay, well, we're a little early. I got time still to wish you a happy birthday on that one, man. We got time. All right. Well, thank you for watching today. We will be back here in less than 24 hours. And I really do thank you for watching today, as it's very kind of you guys for doing so. But until then, please don't forget, even when we have a running back go down due to a very tough ACL injury, don't forget, we're getting ready to still do some really nice things this year. This team is moving in the right direction, and there's still maybe a big move coming down the line here with John Snyder sitting on so much cap space as we head on into this season. So don't forget, keep this team at the forefront of your mind. Stay excited, as they might finally this season reward you for that great patience and break on through. Back in less than 24 hours, but do not you ever forget, go Hawks.